From the Middle is a founding member of Odd Pods Media.
Hey, everybody, welcome to episode number 259 of From the Middle, a comedy, culture, entertainment, and interview style podcast hosted by three middle class guys living in the middle of America in the middle chapters of their lives with points of view that generally, but not always, fall somewhere in the middle. This one is a really fun sort of catch-all episode. We have a lot of good conversation. We catch up on a few things, namely how Terrence Howard seems to have lost his mind. We discover what Colorado-style pizza is. Kendall is getting something special installed in his backyard while recording. And then in the back half of the episode, Dillon poses a really interesting question. If you could have middle-class, mundane superpowers, what would they be? And we really want you to weigh in on that question, as well as anything else you'd like to engage and interact with us on. Details on how to do that are in the description below. Enjoy the episode. We love you, except for that one person. You know who you are.
Oh, for the love. Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it?
You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved. From the Middle after dark over here.
If it's for the purposes of something funny that Case said, will you allow just one more Hawaii story?
Yes.
Always. I mean,
Okay.
it's been a week, right? So like,
Yeah.
not a
Okay.
week without a new story.
Yeah. So if you didn't listen to the last half of last week's episode, I waxed poetic about our Hawaii trip. Anyway, Case had some zingers and was just cracking me up. So this is our what we thought was going to be our last night at the resort. And we said to the kids, let's do a night swim. Now the water slides close at 5 p.m., but the pools themselves are open till 10. And there's tiki torches around the perimeter of the pools. To understand the Wailea pools, there's like 9 different pools at different levels, all connected by water slides. So you can just lounge at the top in the cabanas in some Shea loungers and hang out at the top pool, but it connects to a slightly lower pool with a little slide, another slightly lower pool with another slide, and so on. There's also slides that go from the very top to the very bottom. There's lazy rivers, rope bridges. There's even a kids pool that has a sand bottom, and they're all connected. So all the water is connected in some fashion. It's very fun. So it's a night swim, completely dark. We're at our resort. Next to our resort is a public beach access. So Case and I are in the lazy river, just hanging out, when some high school, college age boys make their way onto our resort from the public beach access. Don't know if they have rooms there. There's nobody around from a security or like lifeguard perspective. So they're just being high school teenage boys. Yeah, bro, F this, F that, whatever. They would later find one of the little hot tubs at one of the higher tiers, stand on the side of the facade mountain fake rock thing, and do backflips into the lazy river that Case and I were in. But in this moment, they waltzed onto the property, being loud, cussing. He just looks over at me and goes, "Gangstas."
I love it.
Oh, the best part was that earlier in the night when it was just Sherry and I and the kids, we were in that upper hot tub, and I thought to myself, I wonder if I could jump off of that hot tub down into the lazy river below. And then Sherry goes, how bad is it that the obnoxious high school kids had the same idea that you did? Anyway, when he said gangsters, I fell out. Dude cracks me up.
Love it.
That's awesome.
I know we talk a lot about food, and in that category, we talk about pizza quite a bit. You two are the pizza connoisseurs. We've talked about all the different types of pizza. I told you we stopped in Denver on the way home where I had Colorado style pizza. Are you guys familiar with this? Do you know what it is? And how excited are you for me to tell you about it?
I'm very curious.
I've not heard the term. However, I am aware that
there's kind of the main pizza types, and then some places have spin-offs and call it their own, but it's really just kind of a spin-off of a greater type. So I would say that there are probably less types than people think there are from a general category, but then people like to make it their own. So I'm curious, as you describe it, if it legitimately is its own type, or if it's like, well, that's basically just Chicago, or that's basically just West Coast, and they call it their own. So I'm intrigued. You've piqued my interest, and I can't wait to hear more.
Kendall, thoughts before I go into it?
I've never heard of it. Much in the same vein as Kory. A lot of people like to, and I'm not poo-pooing them or anything.
Not gatekeeping.
But
yeah,
it's not gatekeeping. But like there is a Columbus style, and I use the term Columbus style and whatnot. But a lot of cities have Columbus style pizza, and they call it whatever their city is style.
Fair.
And
So-
regionally, ours is a little different from most places regionally, but
Got
only
it.
a little.
So the day of the graduation at Denver University, our nephew said, I'd like to go to a special place for lunch. This is your graduation, anywhere you want, man. He picks a place an hour out of Denver in Idaho Springs, Colorado, called BeauJo's. BeauJo''S. BeauJo's Pizza, Idaho Springs, where they talk about a hand-rolled crust. Whatever toppings you choose, great, but the hand-rolled crust is very high off the base crust. It comes up very high, even though it's not deep dish. From the crust alone, it's like a good 2.5, 3 inches up, because it almost looks like a stuffed crust, but it's not. And then toppings you order, great. Then you're meant to, once you eat all the way to the crust, you're meant to sort of leave the crust, and it almost looks like the knots that I think it was Pizza Hut had. You can tear off little sections, but you drizzle honey on the crust. And the most bizarre thing happened. We had a savory pizza. All of the bites felt very savory. When I put the honey on it, it felt like the crust switched to like a cinnamon bread. And it wasn't just because I had honey on it. It felt like the dough had gotten sweeter by the time. So you're meant to use that as a dessert when you're done. So hand rolled, lots of toppings, and then honey is on every table, and you drizzle it on the crust and then eat that as a dessert. You guys know I'm not a massive fan of pizza. So freaking good. As a fun fact on the side, while you guys are digesting that, pun intended, we got an order of spinach artichoke dip as an appetizer. They served that in a little pizza with chips. You ate the spinach artichoke dip out of the crust and then had the honey. Once you had eaten all the spinach artichoke dip off of the bread crust, you could drizzle the honey on it. So good. Thoughts?
Wow. It is it does look interesting. I would say legitimately they've got something there that I've never seen before. It looks kind of like a standard hand rolled hand tossed pizza, but you're right, like the dough the crust is extra thick. So it's like you've got like a full inch of crust before pizza starts.
So it makes me wonder if quote unquote Colorado style is just the way in which you eat it, not as much about the type of pizza itself.
I mean, is this is not unique to BeauJo's. This is where a lot of places do this
In Colorado?
in Colorado.
Is that your understanding, Kory?
I don't know. And I do know that there are multiple BeauJo's. We just went to the one in Idaho Springs, because if you click on the picture with the red Jeep, it's in this quintessential Colorado town with 2-story buildings. They close the main street normally. Tons of shops, cafes, with mountains in the background. There's a stream that runs through the middle of the town. And it's this super old, it looks like it was there during the gold rush. just very old miner, Wild West kind of town. So the reason we chose that location of all the BeauJo's locations is because of the atmosphere of the place. 2 or 3 stories of tables. Yeah, that Taste Atlas photo down and to the right too. That's what it looks like inside. Very cool vibe. We ate up there in that loft space.
Interesting. And there's another photo that looks much more, it says BeauJo's, looks much more like a traditional Ian-Toss style. So this crust, it's certainly a unique presentation and eating style. So it might very well be its own.
When we ordered the pizzas, he said, "Do you want the hand rolled crust?" So that must just be one of the options. They might have a regular hand tossed, but he's like, "Would you like the hand rolled?" It leaves you with so much crust for drizzling the honey on top of. My mouth is watering thinking about how good it was.
And it looks like the crust, it almost looks like a wheat crust, or maybe they do put something in it like a little bit of cinnamon or something on the edges to make it more dessert-like. It's interesting though. It looks delicious.
So yummy.
If you looked at it, you would think it was somebody made like you said, the Pizza Hut, like the garlic knots, but then they stuffed it with cheese type of crust. If you're not on YouTube, is kind of what it would look like. But if it's not cheese in it and it's just really a good kind of like doughy, thick, fluffy doughy, that looks awesome. I would love to try it.
I feel like, and if somebody listening can shed some light on this, like I'm doing a little bit of reading. And I searched specifically just Colorado style pizza to see if other places came up. And BeauJo's is definitely like the one that is by far and away the most popular, if not the only, that's doing this. BeauJo's coined the term Colorado style pizza. They are they're a chain for Colorado in Colorado. Cream cheese apparently is a thing. Was there cream cheese in the crust?
I don't know, but that sounds amazing.
It might have been hard to tell if it was a very thin layer, kind of rolled up into it.
That could add to the dessertness. Honey is definitely traditionally a part of the finishing touch. Also known as a mountain pie.
Yes, that's their other term. Anyway, they could have coined it. It could just be their thing to try to sell more pizzas. I don't care. I'm here for it. I got to go back. So good.
And speaking of which, hot honey has become very popular for pizza versus standard honey. And then whipped honey, if you've never tried it, is a very different even flavor and experience than just putting regular honey on something.
What is whipped honey, Will?
It's literally honey that's whipped to make it really light and airy and it changes the flavor a bit. And I was just eating some because my daughter picked it out at the store, but I was just eating some with goat cheese and crackers, and it was awesome. Before we started the call. So yeah, whipped honey is its own thing. If you like honey, especially, and you see it somewhere, pick some up and try it out with some of your favorite ways to eat it. It's delicious.
You know, speaking of honey, something blew my mind over the course of the past year. There's somebody in our neighborhood, in our suburban neighborhood, who in their backyard has honeybees. They raise honeybees. And they're apians, if you will. And they sell honey. And we've gotten their honey a couple of times. And it tastes good. It tastes different from regular honey. I didn't know that like honey could have different flavors just based on where you buy it and what the bees are eating or whatever it is they're doing. And it's different. And then we have a friend from church who lives out in the country where they also have bees. And they gave us a jar of their honey. And it's even better and a totally different flavor. I've now legitimately had 3 different honeys, like locally in the area. All 3 are distinctly their own. And that blew my mind that that's a thing.
Wow.
I'm not a ape, like you said, but my understanding is that even the season, even from the same bees, even the season, spring, summer, fall, affects the color and flavor of honey, let alone bees that are in different areas and have different flowers nearby and whatever. So it's
So are there honey connoisseurs and sommeliers that are like, oh, this is a late February Indiana bee honey?
yeah,
I bet
probably.
you. I bet
Probably.
you it is. There's a lot of clover nearby.
Yeah,
It is
there's
bee
clearly a
colony.
stream.
Mm.
That's fascinating. My father-in-law used to raise bees when he was a young man. His brothers continue the tradition, and we get honey by the bareful from those guys, and it is delicious. I like it when it gets the little sugar crystals, so there's just a little bit of grit
Yeah.
to it for a nice texture.
Mhm.
You get a hot biscuit, butter that sucker, and drizzle some of that crunchy honey on it. Good night.
You should
Is like,
whip it real good.
Honey is so
wow.
good.
I'm hungry. How are you guys doing? It's another week. So much has changed since we last
so-
spoke.
The world is a different place this week.
Totally different, you
it
might
is.
say.
Episode.
I'm
Yeah.
a heck of a lot more awake
Mm.
than I was at our last recording.
I don't want to tell you about London. It was so good. So we'll save that for next time.
Yeah, let's save it.
Thanks for making the quick flight home
You're welcome.
just to
Yeah.
record because they don't have internet in London.
Yeah,
I love
we've
you
got
guys.
so much to cover this week. We'll save London for sure, because that is, I'm sure, plenty of rich stories in and of itself.
Sure. I'm
Speaking
sure.
of Kory being away, are we going to lift the curtain? We talked about lifting the curtain.
Oh, yeah.
and we didn't lift the curtain at the
Okay,
last episode.
I'm so glad you reminded me. So we've said this before on the podcast. If you're a loyal listener, you know this little game that we play. And I was so impressed by how well Dillon and Kendall did while I was away. So Kendall does all of our audio editing. This is a little behind the scenes. Kendall does all of the audio editing and levels, and he does the writing of our episode descriptions, and he does the actual uploading. And I do anything related to graphics, social media, the YouTube thumbnail, our logo stuff. Every week I put the new number of the episode number. And if you follow along on YouTube, the thumbnails have these 5 bubbles. And I put objects in the 5 bubbles based on what we talked about. Because I didn't want to have to take my computer or do design work while I was in Hawaii, I challenged the guys offline and said, hey, what if I just put 5 random images in the episode thumbnail bubbles, and you guys have to weave it into conversation, either in non sequitur fashion or like naturally make it feel. And what you guys don't know is that I went out of my office and said to the girls, hey, just give me random nouns, proper nouns.
You mad
Or
libbed
na-
us?
Yeah, or just give me random nouns. Chloe ironically said Abe Lincoln when I was already thinking Abe Lincoln.
Wow.
And so that was one. Sherry was like, I don't know, Shrek, typewriter, whatever. You guys crushed that little game, and it was so fun to listen. I felt like I was listening to like a big reveal of how you were going to weave it in, to the degree that I don't know if you actually happened to pick up a book at the library about Abraham Lincoln.
I did.
Or you just made that up for the episode. It
No.
was so good.
I had the book before the image. Like,
So funny. And then the things that you chose to pick up on, even within the image, like, for example, I intentionally chose a photo of Abe Lincoln of him without the beard. You almost always see Abe Lincoln with his beard. And I was like, there are images of Abe Lincoln without a beard. So I thought maybe you'd pick up on that. Didn't. Fine. All good. It was just so fun to see the way that you handled the images. And so that's a fun little game we play when Kory goes away and wants to get the images done ahead of time. And you guys crushed it. It was so funny.
it was fun. Like, I almost want to do that on purpose. Like, well, I mean, at other times, like if it's a slow week or whatever, like just mad lib an episode out, because that was legit fun.
So my follow-up question is, how early in advance did each of you look at the image? And did you try to like plot out where in the dialogue you were going to bring it up? Or did you just find some good windows live in real time?
I think both of us the day of recording just kind of texted and was like, hey, do you have anything for any of these? And we're like, yeah, I think I've got a couple. I'm having struggled with the bottom two. I'm like, okay, I think I can come up with a couple things for the bottom two. And then that was it. That was the end of our conversation.
Oh,
heading
that's
into
so
recording.
funny.
And then
Yeah,
recording just happened.
We've discussed it. We definitely don't script our show, but we do have a running note with general themes. Well, that sort of gave us the general themes like we would normally have, but we always sort of weave things in, as we sort of get to it. I mean, you have to start somewhere, so like sometimes you just have to throw out a thing right away, right? But other than that, it's just sort of speaking, we have a lot of speaking of such and such. Here's a story. And so you gave us certainly some truly random topics, but it worked out well enough, like Kendall said, that I was like, man, I could probably weave in the top 3 pictures, but the bottom 2, and we happen to have each other covered well. So
that's awesome.
Just kind of worked out that, we didn't totally struggle with any one of the pictures.
I thought you could do an entire episode on the way people hold utensils or writing tools, because I had a coworker that used to eat with a closed fist, but it would face him, so he'd go, the bowl is between him and his hand, and he'd go bowl mouth, bowl mouth, bowl mouth, bowl mouth, holding the spoon that way. And I was like, what is happening?
As the resident robot, that level of efficiency is unnecessary. That's just like, dude, this is the whole microwaving your Pop-Tarts instructions. Like, if you don't have 2 seconds, you need to loosen up your, 10 seconds for a toaster. You need to loosen up your schedule a little bit. That's a unnecessary level of efficiency for sure.
So funny. You guys, that was great. I loved listening to
thanks.
that.
And if you didn't listen, all the more reason to go back to those 2 episodes where Kendall and I are having some fun weaving those in.
We need to do that different ways. Like maybe I'll write a description ahead of time.
Oh, that's fun.
Or maybe Dillon could put a social media post out there, be like, hey guys, this week the episode is going to be about blah, 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 or whatever.
All of this tells me we need another guest soon.
I don't know.
As soon as I did the YouTube thumbnails though, and got to the airport and started watching some of the podcasts I mentioned I had downloaded because I got YouTube Premium for 30 days, they were all commenting on Terrence Howard being on Joe Rogan Experience and how Terrence Howard seems to have completely lost it. Yeah. And I have downloaded that episode and I'm so excited to listen. Did you guys see any clips or reels or anything from that interview?
A little bit, yeah. And
it makes me wish I would have put his image in one of the bubbles, because he's talking about how there are colors for the elements on the periodic table and how you can hear color and different frequencies based on numbers. And I'm like, what's going on?
He tried to name drop Neil deGrasse Tyson in there, and then Neil deGrasse Tyson issued a response like, no.
Whoa. That seems like it's going to be a ride. I can't wait to watch.
Interesting. Turns out original Rhodey has lost it after he got canned as War Machine in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He was the original Rhodey, and I think it all came down to a money dispute, and that's when they replaced him with I can't believe I'm blanking on his name, but they replaced him with another actor to go into the further movies. So nod back to the original Iron Man film if you forgot he was in that.
Go. So how do you guys feel about something I don't think we consider as middle-aged dads in the middle chapters of our life with not gobs and gobs of money, is there should be community possessions. And here's what I mean. A while ago, friend of the show and my neighbor Brad got a GoPro. He doesn't really use it that often, and it's very funny. He goes, you do more interesting things, you borrow the GoPro. The GoPro is what I took to Hawaii to get all the great snorkeling video and jumping off the cliffs and stuff. And it got me thinking, more people should do that. Like the 3 of us guys like if one of us wants something, rather than one of us to eat the whole cost, if it's not something that's going to be used regularly, why don't more people that are friends or family buy a shared thing and then just pass it around when one of them needs it? You could, in theory, cut your cost by a third in this situation. But then the issue becomes who has it when. But I love the idea that there's like a community GoPro that when somebody's going off on an adventure, they get it. They use their own memory card. They just use the GoPro themselves and then pass it back to whoever's going on the next adventure. Thoughts on borrowing things?
All right, listen here, Commie. This is America, okay? We don't share things. We build fences and we shut people out, and we hoard our own possessions, and we never ever extend our table and make it bigger. That's not what this is about. This is the Wild West, and my gold is my gold. Okay, I'm like Smog.
It's
at the
so
top of my gold tower, and I'm just hoarding it all from the little pesky hobbits. Do you understand?
I understand. And if I'm Sebastian Maniscalco, I'm hearing him respond to that question going, no, because when I want the GoPro, that's when I want the GoPro, and I don't want to have to ask nobody or make a phone call. I want to have, like, he doesn't want to have to bother with somebody else having it when he wants to use it, right?
Okay, I'm kidding though. I think the word that felt problematic initially, and then I understood as you explained it, is community owned. I think a group of sharing, a borrowing is a better word. So understanding, like, the GoPro is a great example, or like we do this, guys do this often with tools, right? Like, I don't have a power washer. I can say, hey dude, could I buy you a pizza and borrow your power washer for a week or two and save myself renting it from Home Depot, because I only need it every couple of years. It's not a frequent thing. Great example of like a quick tool thing. I think totally. Like, I think having a group of friends or a social media group of everyone who's comfortable with everyone being able to throw in a request, like, does anybody have this thing I could borrow? Because then, if somebody owns it and they say, like, hey, I have it blocked out for this time that I need it, but other than that, you're welcome to borrow it, is an awesome idea.
Yeah.
The tool thing's a great example, because a chainsaw is another. I don't have enough trees to justify purchasing a big steel chainsaw. Steel, the brand, not steel, the type of metal. But when I do need to, I've got some trees that need, like, cut all the way down to the stump. It'd be great if, like, the three of us, one of us had a chainsaw. It's like, hey, when you need it, come get it, whatever. I just think it's a missed opportunity.
Are you guys or your wives or families or anybody part of like your local Buy Nothing Facebook groups?
No.
No.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
You've talked about it before, that Amy's a big proponent. And so you've mentioned it a few times on different things, but that's,
like, so, I mean, a lot of the bulk of what it is people who's like, they'll put things on there. For example, there was somebody whose kid just like doesn't play baseball anymore, and they had a bag full of baseballs. And instead of throwing them away or taking them to Goodwill, they reached out to their community, and we're part of the Gahanna area specific Buy Nothing group. And we were like, well, we actually need baseballs in our house. So Amy went on there, put her name in the hat, and then the person who posted the thing, they then choose. They have some kind of ethical way of doing things. So they'll let the post simmer for a day or two before they choose somebody. And oftentimes they'll just choose at random. Oftentimes they'll look at who needs it and why, and those kinds of things. I picked up a bag full of baseballs today. So
Dude.
there's a lot of that kind of thing, but there also is just like, hey guys, I need we've lent out a helium tank for balloons before. And then they used it and brought it back. We've lent out things like that too through the Buy Nothing group. So yeah, I mean, the firepower is there as far as being able to communicate with your community. Just got to get the word out that this thing exists. And I think as more and more people use it, like, you can totally use it to borrow things from people you don't know, but they live in your area. And
Kendall, thank you. I just joined the Galena, Centerburg, Sunbury, Johnstown, Buy Nothing Group from buynothingproject.org.
Yeah.
Give,
Here's a
ask,
cool
gratitude.
Here's a cool example. So there was a girl in the area about Lydia's age who was getting rid of some clothes. We were looking for some specific things, and some of those specific things were, and so we ended up getting this bag of free clothes that are all about Lydia's size to our house. And then when we received it, Amy went through, we kind of picked out the things that we wanted for Lydia, added some things that Lydia didn't want anymore or just barely grew out of, put them back in the bag. And then Amy picked someone else from that original post and said, hey, we took what we wanted. There's a bunch left and we added some stuff. You take it now.
Love that.
So like, yeah.
Loyal Middler Drew just posted on Facebook a couple weeks ago. He's like, anybody have like a bucket of baseballs? I just want to teach my son batting practice with my son over the summer, and I don't want to have to go buy. Baseballs are freaking expensive. If you get quality,
Leather.
not the soft ones, but like the quality official MLB.
Because synthetic sucks. And
Synthetic sucks.
Leather is what you want, and you want the proper size and weight because that matters, especially when it comes to throwing distance.
Yeah. And my answer prior to that was just go to your local Pay It Again Sports. Still pay quite a bit for baseballs, but maybe you find some good used ones from like a high school team or something and thrown in there. But yeah, I love that. That's a great idea. Anyway, the GoPro got me thinking like more people should do this with more stuff.
Yeah, I'm totally.
Especially like I like you guys' idea about these Buy Nothing groups and like Facebook groups and community groups, but like even like friend groups, like just have some friend group stuff, pontoon boats, things like that. Whenever you want it. Greg did it with his motorcycles. Friend of the show, Greg, been on previous episode. He has 5 now, just bought a 5th. He used to let me ride one, and that's how I learned to get comfortable out on the streets. I'm like, more people should share their stuff.
I was going to say that's sort of the running gag or running kind of joke about, you don't want to own a truck or a boat because somebody, you can always borrow one. You don't want to be the one that people always borrow from, but we don't always apply that to small stuff. Certainly. And I think that's where it can expand beyond a boat, a truck, an RV, or some power tools or yard tools. I think there's probably lots of little stuff. Most people wouldn't think about a GoPro. They would just go buy one versus, that's such a specific thing, especially for a trip. It's a great idea. I need it for 2 weeks. I'll give it right back. Something happens to it. I'll buy another one, And I think that's always the easy disclaimer. Like it's assumed that if anyone ruins the thing, you replace the thing. But other than that, just bring it back in good shape and you're good to go.
Like with Brad's GoPro on Amazon, I found a accessory kit of like 30 different types of connections and like one to use when you're going underwater with a buoy that keeps the GoPro floating should you drop it, one that mounts to a dashboard, one that's got little robot legs that you can wrap around a tree. Like I bought all the accessories. He had the GoPro itself. I bought all the accessories. Now when I give it back to him, he has the accessories that he never had before. And I'm like, this is like, we can all improve it and make it better. And anyway, let's see what our friends in Odd Pods Media have to share.
Hey there, I'm Dave, the host of Beer in Front. Sometimes the beer in front of you is the best one yet. I'll talk about some old school beers that maybe you've forgotten about, some new beers that have the potential to be a classic. I'll also talk to various people around the beer world and get their stories all about beer. That's Beer in Front, and it's available on all of your favorite podcast apps.
It was so kind and nice of us to share some of our airtime or upload time.
Sure.
Whatever space.
Airtime
with
sounds
our
so professional though.
It does. And I don't know if we're like, this isn't really on air, is it? Maybe I don't know what terms mean.
It sounds expensive. Like we did a nice expensive favor. We shared some of our airtime, our
We bought
expensive, high
zero
production
airtime.
cost airtime with another great show.
Speaking of airtime, there's an exciting thing going on in the backyard of the Ayla household over here. And we poured a giant concrete slab in our backyard. And we're making a basketball court in our backyard.
Let's go.
Right.
Yeah. I can't wait. It's so freaking hot.
Did you borrow some
This
concrete from your neighbors?
I wish.
Yeah.
I wish. We paid for labor from contractors.
Yeah.
So we've got this big, like 27 by 25, 27 by 27 in some spaces. It kind of, our fence isn't straight in the back, and we kind of followed the fence. And this giant slab of concrete. We have a basketball hoop in the garage that needs to get put together, and then we're going to town, man. I'm happy. I'm excited.
That's the perfect thing for you to invite us over to help you with. Both the assembly of the hoop, but also when you're ready to have some lines painted on the court.
Indeed.
I'm your guy.
What I did was, because it's not a perfect square, right? It's a rectangle, and it's in the back of the yard. And so we're going to have problems with balls going over the fence and that kind of thing. I actually bought at a garage sale a pool ladder so that it's easier for us to get over the fence.
Yeah.
To get to basketballs. Haven't talked to my neighbors about the fact that I bought something to help us get into their yard, but I think they'll be okay with it.
Another option. Can you buy just posts that you can have net, like a big net?
That's what I'm going to do eventually, but we don't know
Yeah.
exactly where the basketball hoop's going to live. So I bought a cheap mobile basketball hoop that you can roll around, like a lot of driveways have. And so we're going to try it at like all four sides of the basketball court and kind of decide where we want one. And then I'll get a nicer one at some point, probably a year from now or two, and actually mount one into the ground at that point. And then we'll be ready to say, hey, this is where we need netting.
That's awesome. I love that.
Baseball, karate, and now they're going to be super interested in basketball. I love the idea that you got a 2-sided pull ladder to go over your neighbor's fence, because before we left for Hawaii, I met our new neighbors that moved in behind us 6 feet above our backyard.
Uh-huh.
And they confessed, hey, we often throw the ball to our grandson, and sometimes we accidentally throw it in your yard, and I just have him hop your fence. And I go, no, there's a gate back there. Tell him, feel free. I'd much rather him use the gate than be putting his body weight on my wooden fence. So please feel free.
Yeah.
So you're doing the right thing by not climbing the fence. And yeah, that's awesome. Good for you. That's fun.
Yeah,
I'm so
super
excited
jazzed.
for you. We can hang out in your garage, drink some beer, put it together, paint lines, listen to music. It'll be great.
Let's do it. So, but then when we do, like, when we are ready and we know exactly where we're going to have a hoop, I'll totally have you over with your experience and paint some concrete. That'd be great.
Great. Super fun.
So that's our kids' day for this year, by the way. A little extravagant, very extravagant for a kids' day, but we're calling it Kids' Day this year. Is that?
I love that you guys do that. That's super fun. Funny thing, you guys might relate. Speaking of home projects and doing things yourself, Chris D'Elia was talking about his frustration about how if he ever hurts himself, best example would be stubbing your toe or getting the wind knocked out of you. Somebody always goes, "Are you okay?" Don't talk to me right then. That I couldn't agree. I was listening to him say that, crying, laughing, going, yes, or you're choking on something. Clearly, talk to me. Do your spouses do that? You're like, sweetie, are you? It's like, give me. Are you okay? Oh, give me a second, man.
Yeah, especially you're so likely to respond back in a rude way in pain.
Yes.
Especially then if the reaction to your reaction is, well, calm down. Like, it's like, oh, it's the worst time for me to try to temper my rage.
I shouldn't have to add that layer to this situation.
That explanation shouldn't be necessary. The assumption should be, I should be prepared for a potentially rude response, but don't take it personally.
Yeah.
Because somebody is in pain.
I promise I will come back with you with an answer on how I feel when the time is right. You're not going anywhere. You're going to stand there and watch me. You'll see when I get my wind back or unstub my toe.
Yeah, I am perpetually stubbing a toe, and my response is always immediately, son of a, and then it just stops there. And then I'm just out of breath for the next like 90 seconds as I try to recover on my pinky toe.
Jamming a finger.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear you. Kicking a corner.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the
Do
best
that
response I ever have is always like, I'll be fine in a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. Too
Best
early.
case,
Hold on,
best
hold
case
on.
scenario.
Makes you wish you had a superpower, you know?
Oh, what?
Like instant healing.
What would that be like if you had, if there were like, not like superpower, like you're not Superman superpower, right? But what if you had like mundane middle class superpowers? What would those be like? So like instant healing, but only for like a stub toe or a jammed pinky. It doesn't,
Not
it
like
doesn't,
Wolverine style. Yeah.
it's not major injuries, but it's like if it's you know, less than a flesh wound, it's an instant recovery. Mosquito bite, bubble, immediately gone. Bee sting, little too much. Can't quite get rid of those. It's into the skin. Would you have any fun, mundane middle class powers?
So something that I wish my sons had and that I wish I would have had when back in the days when I had hair was just the ability to make my hair lay flat in the morning.
So
No
quick
bet.
brush with your hand would actually just make it.
You
lay
could just
flat.
snap your fingers and like the cowlick would just fall.
Yeah,
That would be nice.
that's a good one.
I distinctly remember watching Mary Poppins, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, and I think there were a few cartoons that did this shtick where they have telekinesis, but just to clean the room and fold some clothes. I don't need to move big, heavy objects. I just want to fold that shirt Marie Kondo style from across the room and the other 5 behind it and put them nicely in the drawer and shut that drawer with my mind powers.
Yeah.
Or like you have to wash the dishes yourself, but your powers can dry them for you. But you still have to then put them away.
Spider-Man style, you've got like soap that just comes out of your fingers, so you never need to buy soap. It just appears magically from your hands.
Yep. Nothing crazy. I'm not trying to move other humans and like manipulate crazy things. I just want to do some chores from across the room, just doing this.
Yeah.
Or not at all, or just looking at it.
Go upstairs without my knee locking up.
Yeah, that.
I think surgery will cover you on that one. I'm gonna take Cyclops X-Men style laser vision, but it only works on grass and weeds. So
do your eyes have to be at the level that you want the grass cut though? So do you have to lay on your belly and go?
No, I mean, I'm not trying to look silly out there in the yard, right? So like, if it could just kind of know, like, my eyes can measure the grass from standing, and I go out there with my arms on my hips and just go, whew, and just a quick swoop across, and it doesn't even do the whole yard. I have to be kind of looking at it, right? Or I have to hone in on an individual weed and go, and like I'm shooting tiny little, and then the weed withers and goes back into the ground.
I'm telling you, you can't have this power because you're shooting down at an angle and your grass isn't going to be level. I think you have to get on your belly and look across.
You sound ridiculous. You know what this is? You know what you're turning this into? Legolas couldn't have killed all those orcs and slid down stone on a shield. Yeah, he's a freaking elf. He doesn't exist. I think we can accept that maybe a shield would slide down stone in Middle Earth. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can accept.
Yeah.
I don't
remember
have to be at a physics style angle. All right. I think we can just. I'm not even giving myself sweeping vision. I can't do the whole yard. I have to.
Fair. I stand down. I relent.
You're trying to make it more mundane in the spirit of the question, which I do appreciate. You got to actually lay on the ground and go pew pew pew.
No, not pew pew. It's just like a saw, like a fast moving saw.
like a sweeping.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine on a hilly lot how many places you'd have to lay down. That's actually worse than mowing. You should just mow at that point. Because you've got to get all the angles just right.
You know what I think would save a lot of hate and aggravation is if every office had one person who had a superpower of being able to unjam a printer without touching it. They can just see the piece of paper inside there and flat like iron it out and
Like
just
X-ray vision it. They can see right where it is and where
there would be a lot less depression and anxiety going on in workplaces.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can just like communicate with the internals of a printer just to coax it along, connecting to all the different computers. And yeah,
that's great.
Here's one. Do you realize how many as seen on TV inventions there have been to just slightly cool people off?
Yeah.
You've got the little water bottle fan spritzer thing. You've got those, it's made from a certain type of copper and you get it wet in cold water. And then like 2 hours later, you can place it around your neck and it cools your average body temperature by whatever degrees. Or I've got a little fan that plugs into the lightning port of my iPhone. It's a little Chinese made tchotchke that like just uses the power from my phone and just slightly. I don't want Sub-Zero Frozone from The Incredibles ice powers. I just want slightly cooled off powers.
Yeah.
In any given moment, especially this week in Ohio, where it's so humid and hot. Feel bad for those guys pouring concrete. Mm-hmm. I just want to cool myself in any given moment by, say, 7 degrees.
In that vein, what about the ability to, and it only works on a small cup of liquid, stick your finger in and heat it or cool it to an appropriate temperature? So to heat up your coffee or to make your soda cooler, and you just stick your finger in and swirl it and it goes to right where you want it. But that's it. Yeah. You can't heat up meals. You can't, heat up a frozen pizza. It doesn't work like that. It's just stick your finger in a drink, hot or cooler, stir it up.
Clockwise for one, counterclockwise for the
other. All done.
It's the ember mug from your finger, but it also works in reverse, and you can do
any other mug or drink cup because you can just do it with your finger. See?
But then Kendall wouldn't be able to use his nugget ice.
That's true.
Well, no, I could preserve my nugget ice. So that's the thing. Something that I've learned is that the nugget ice melts a lot faster.
Very fast. More surface area.
Yeah. And so like the drink, my Topo Chico, I took out of the garage and I put in the freezer so it can be cold now when I add it to my ice, because I don't want to melt all the ice. I want to chomp on it.
Yes.
Speaking of Topo Chico, have you tried their flavored hard seltzer cans?
I don't know if I have. I don't think I have.
Mango, pineapple, lime, and I forget the fourth. We got it in a variety pack. So good.
We have the the non-hard seltzer waters, which are flavored and are good.
The flaccid seltzer.
Yeah. Also, you should know people that find themselves compelled frequently to chew on ice are apparently more likely to have an iron deficiency. So cool. You might need more iron in your diet if you find yourself chomping on ice a lot.
Are you tired often?
Maybe.
This is good. I think we should also put this out to the listeners and have them reply. I'm not shutting us down. If you've got more, that's great. But like, what sort of like middle class mundane superpowers would you have? It can't do anything interesting or fascinating. Just the everyday stuff.
The possibilities are boringly endless.
Like your day is still going to be your day. There's just this one little thing that you don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
Kendall, I feel like there's got to be some in music, like never having to carry a pitch pipe if you don't have perfect pitch. Like like you don't have a piano nearby. You're about to sing the national anthem at a baseball game, and you just get the note that you need right when you need it.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Something like that.
That'd be good. Circular breathing while singing.
Ooh, inward singing like Tenacious D.
Yeah. Would be
That's
great.
fascinating.
Like circular. Are you guys familiar with circular breathing and playing like wind instruments and
Yeah, Kenny
brass
G,
instruments?
baby.
What's that?
Kenny G, baby.
Kenny G, baby. So that, but with singing, so you don't have to worry about where to take breaths.
Yeah.
You can just breathe while singing.
I love that.
That'd be cool.
Here's another one that's pretty mundane. You pick your favorite hat and you have the ability to tap it and it'll change the logo to whatever you want on the front.
Yes.
So you buy a hat in every color, and then you can just go Cincinnati Reds and it'll change the logo. So just
Why not the color too? One hat to rule them all. Change the color and the logo in any given situation. Put
Or
the
refresh a hat
super-
so it's not all stanky and like get rid of sweat stains and stuff. So now you don't have to worry about which hat you're wearing. If it's because I worry about which hat I'm wearing if I'm going to be sweating.
yeah.
And
if we're doing
yeah.
that, then let's do that on a shirt too. So like your favorite, you buy the most comfortable t-shirt, and then you have the ability to go, this is going to be green today with a Callahan Auto Parts logo. And boom, done.
So often I have to go to the trouble of getting out an iron just to iron either the bacon neck collar of a shirt or the very bottom tail of a shirt. It bothers me when the tail wants to roll up of like a button down.
Yeah.
I just want to, the whole shirt doesn't need ironed. Just that one area bothers me and I want it to look nice. So no more bacon neck and no more roll up bottom of too heavy, too much starch button downs. Oh, that'd be awesome.
I feel like this could go on forever.
This is really
It
mundane.
absolutely could. Yeah.
Any kind of minor annoyance, you can solve a problem with the mundane superpower.
That's awesome. There's a comedy bit there for sure.
Maybe there's an inventor listening who's like furiously jotting down notes to try to fix our problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What would be annoying is if you knew you had one of these like millions of mundane superpowers, but it's different every day and you don't know which one you have. And so you just like have to try things and continually be disappointed that like, nope, it's not that one. And every once in a while you get it like, oh, I didn't have to wipe. It took care of itself. So,
this feels like a movie plot. Like you put a Steve Carell type with that storyline and that hilarity ensues. Totally normal middle class guy, and every day he's trying to figure out what his superpower might be. His mundane superpower might.
And let's say he lands it right before midnight, but didn't realize that the clock switched over to the next day, so it's reset, and he tries to do the thing he just figured out, but it doesn't work in a really embarrassing situation.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's
like successfully rent a car from an Avis in the Denver airport. Anyway, good Lord.
That's awesome. So you've been using YouTube Premium. You're binging lots of stand-up comedy. Maybe not necessarily have you watched anything else, but have you thought of any other interesting use cases for things you could download? Like, have you downloaded a bunch of music videos yet that you would normally not think to go watch? Or is there anything else you're targeting?
No, it's mostly just the regular YouTube channels I subscribe to. Like Adam Savage is another one because he's just tinkering in his shop and I get to watch him do really relaxing things on an airplane, and just watching somebody make or tinker while I'm flying is soothing. So no, it's really just that. But speaking of streaming, I just downloaded the entire season of Tires. So Shane Gillis, the comedian, is blowing up right now. And he has a new show, sitcom called Tires that I'm excited to watch. I'm in the middle of it's not really true crime. It's a dramatization of a real story of a comedian in the UK who is being stalked. It's called Baby Reindeer on Netflix. Some people in my feed were talking about that. It's really good. The first three episodes, episode 4 gets dark. And it's a little hard to watch, but I'm going to see it through. So yeah, not really anything, not interesting use cases, just catching up on my channels.
Yeah. I sometimes do I'll sometimes pull them up for fun for work to like throw on a song for work meetings while people are piling into a call. And I notice I know like YouTube has some movies, full-length movies and stuff on there that
Yes.
you could go find and download for offline use for travel.
Yeah.
So I just know you travel a lot. That will likely be a pretty useful subscription if you decide to stick with it. Speaking of streaming, the Acolyte. Oh, go ahead.
Before I forget, I think Godzilla Minus One, which I said was really good. If you didn't see it in theaters, it's now on Netflix. I think it was like there was a special bundle on Apple TV for like $50. Again, Chris D'Elia was saying, I just paid $50 for Godzilla Minus One, and then it goes on Netflix for free. So, Dillon, go down to your basement to your massive TV with your awesome Bose surround sound system, and please watch Godzilla Minus One down there. You're going to love it.
Yeah, I'm very excited to check that out. It's in my queue, as well as Dune 2 is still in my queue on HBO.
We got to talk about that.
And I haven't watched that yet. Among other things, for me, and all the apps vary totally by what you're into. But for me, Netflix has been putting a few more movies and documentaries on that I want to watch. So I've got a handful of things in my queue on Netflix again, which is exciting. The Acolyte has been streaming. That's new Star Wars on Disney Plus. I think we're 4 episodes or 5 episodes into that at this point. Solid overall. So I'm excited to see where that story goes. I'm sure I'll talk more at length about it once the series is over. Because new Star Wars in a totally different era is a big deal for fellow nerds. I saw the trailer for it. Have you guys seen the trailer for Brats on Hulu?
Oh.
So this is it's a documentary about the Brat Pack going back to the 80s, which was a collection of young actors who were labeled by a New York Times article as the Brat Pack, and about how, well, really the article was kind of scathing about how they weren't serious actors and they weren't very good or whatever. But there had been a lot of them in films with each other and several films with all of them. And Andrew McCarthy, one of the members of the Brat Pack, made the documentary. And it's really like, once that article happened, they kind of all quit doing movies together. And not that they hung out together a lot, apparently, but they were, sort of adjacent social circles. They all kind of scattered, and none of them wanted to be seen together, do movies together anymore because of the stigma from this article. And so he's like, a lot of us haven't seen each other in 30 years. So time to go back and sort of, you try to move forward, but then, he makes a comment, something to the effect of, I look behind me and that thing is still there, kind of following me along. And so it's really interesting. You don't get to hear from everybody, but you get to hear from several of the members, including like Rob Lowe, Emilio Estevez, and Andrew himself, and a few others. And then some Brat Pack adjacent folks like I'm blanking on her name right now. She's from Back to the Future, Leah, whatever her name is, and a couple others. Anyways, it's really interesting. I'll let anybody interested in that kind of pop culture documentary go check it out. But at one point, Andrew McCarthy is sitting down with Malcolm Gladwell, who writes a lot of books around society and sort of societal thinking. And they're talking at one point that's really not important to the movie, or documentary, but is interesting, is this idea is that a lot of teens at the time, a lot of movies were getting made for teens, and a lot of teens were using these movies to point to, like, that's a character I want to be like. And so kids were emulating characters like Ducky from Pretty in Pink or whoever. And he said the interesting thing is they would sort of emulate these characters because it's who they wanted to be. And as they've grown up, they then later in life point back and go, that character's just like me, not realizing it was a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. They wanted to be that person, so that changed the sort of trajectory of their personality. And then in retrospect, they've sort of forgotten that that character is like them because that's what they emulated. And so it was an interesting sort of take from Malcolm Gladwell that's not really what the documentary is about, but was an interesting discussion. And he even sits down with the writer of the article and chats with him a little bit too. That set the whole chain of events off. So really fun documentary. It's on Hulu if you're into pop culture. And the thing that I find most refreshing is there's a certain level of emotional honesty that all these people have, 30 some years down the road in their 50s and 60s, that like typically younger generations don't have the sort of level of emotional honesty and self-awareness that some of them are now showing as much older adults. So as a quick example, Emilio Estevez is chatting with Andrew McCarthy and makes a positive comment back to Andrew McCarthy. And he sort of sits in it for a second and says, that's really touching. He wanted to make sure Emilio knew that the comment was so well received and that it meant a lot. And that level of authenticity is really interesting to watch as they're chatting sort of through. So it's not a groundbreaking, earth-shattering documentary, but it is if you follow pop culture at all, or you like a lot of those movies, like it would be St. Elmo's Fire and Pretty in Pink and a lot of the John Hughes style movies from that era, you'll find it interesting. It's very geared towards millennials and our age group, and probably skewing a little older, but certainly the millennial age group. So that was a fun one. Check out Brats if you're into that kind of thing.
Have you seen the thumbnail or trailer for Remembering Gene Wilder on Netflix?
I did, but I haven't watched it. There's also a Jim Henson documentary.
It seems, yeah, that one. They both look beautiful. Those both seem right up your alley. You were just talking about the not the Robin Williams one. You just brought up another one in the last couple episodes, a doc about like a beloved. Anyway, I thought you would enjoy that. It seemed right up your alley, and I know Willy Wonka's back in the zeitgeist since Timothy Chalamet did that movie. Another one that I just watched before I forget, and Kendall, over to you. HBO Max, David Holmes, The Boy Who Lived. Sherry showed me this trailer on the plane. It's about Daniel Radcliffe, who played Harry Potter's stuntman for the entire Harry Potter franchise. This super active young boy, high energy, no sense of fear, started in gymnastics, learned that there was a career such as stuntmen, wanted to become a stuntman, ends up landing basically his first job as Harry Potter's stunt double for what ended up being one of the most popular film franchises in human history. Gets paralyzed during the filming of the 7th movie. And it's now his life trying to find his new identity. But the documentary is directed and produced by Daniel Radcliffe as like a thank you back to David Holmes for what he did for his character. And they stayed friends all these years. It's so good. I highly recommend it. David Holmes, The Boy Who Lived, if you're a Harry Potter fan. And what Sherry and I were saying was like, how did we not hear about this? Like,
right.
How did we not know that this was a thing? Like, Harry Potter fans are global and they are passionate. And like, we didn't really know about this story. Like a few small British channels got it, but it didn't really become global news. And so I think you're more like, oh my gosh, didn't even realize this happened, as you're growing to love this guy, David Holmes, and the relationship he has with Daniel Radcliffe. It's really good.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that documentary does well. There's been a growing community around the idea that the Academy Awards should have a best stunt or stuntman, stunt person award, whatever. And I think, sometimes people see like the Hollywood, like, oh, they go on strike and they just hear writers and actors, and they don't realize how many technical people behind the scenes look at credits on any big movie. How many names are there that have worked on the movie outside of the top list of main actors? And even the SAG Awards or the Academy Awards often will have a separate room with separate awards presentations for all the quote minor awards. And I think people kind of write off all of Hollywood as sort of like, especially in our part of the country, is this sort of like, they're elites or whatever, they're out of touch. but there's so many people behind the scenes that work on films. Even their awards are kind of buried with the award shows, that it's probably, but I understand a timing constraint. But I also don't think people realize how much work, really, really hard work, goes in behind the scenes for a lot of normal people that don't make a ton of money, like maybe some of the actors do, but are still working incredibly hard. We've talked about that a little bit, like with Star Wars. There's a lot of very, very dedicated fans that go into, it's not just Kathleen Kennedy making every decision at every level for Star Wars. A lot of very big fans go into making these movies, including stunts and wardrobe and music and editing and props and scenes and tons of stuff. And so I love that David Radcliffe made that. It's really, it feels like that could be a really special, sweet documentary. So it's definitely on my list.
Yep. Check it out.
Very
Kendall.
good. I think in the same sort of brow level of emotionally honest documentaries, not really a documentary, but sort of right there in the same feel. I just finished watching WWE Clash at the Castle.
Perfect delivery. Well done.
Which was, I mean, it was very thoughtful. There was a moment in the weeks leading up where AJ Styles had was given some time at the end of an episode of SmackDown, and earlier in the episode when you see him asking for that time for some ring time at the end of the show, it was like, well, is there anything we need to discuss before? He's like, no, I think it's going to be hard enough for me to get this out once. And so he went out there and he's talking about his career and how he just lost a title opportunity against Cody Rhodes at Backlash. And he was like, and you know what? Last week, I watched my son graduate. I got to be there. And I thought to myself, how many of these have I missed over the course of the years? And maybe it's time for me, instead of trying to be phenomenal at wrestling, I need to be a phenomenal father. And so he called Cody Rhodes out and to the ring, invited him to the ring. Cody Rhodes came out and they shared niceties. And then Cody Rhodes is grabbing his hand and like representing AJ Styles to the crowd. And when they get to the last side of the ring, AJ Styles sucker punched him.
What?
And basically goaded Cody Rhodes into giving him another title shot.
Oh my God.
So because everybody was expecting AJ Styles to quit wrestling, they made it an I quit match where the only way to lose is to say the words I quit. And so that was fun and amazing to watch that. With no stunt doubles. They did all of the things themselves. And all of it is real. Like Cody actually like nailed AJ Styles with the steel stairs that lead up to the thing and everything. And there was blood, real blood, I'm sure. And it was a big deal. Cody Rhodes came out on top. So the story continues.
Are your boys excited? Did they watch along with you?
They did. I tell you what, when Cody Rhodes challenged AJ Styles to the I quit match, he had this way of saying I quit, and I hear that no less than 30 times a day.
That's awesome.
Just
so anyway,
redefining emotional honesty and authenticity.
Yeah, I don't even care. It's not. I used to call WWE my dirty little secret, and I just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I like it. So know that. But I am. I'm in the middle of a book that I'm enjoying, Holly by Stephen King, it's a recent book, came out last year, I believe.
Still writing, huh?
He's still writing, man.
Wow.
I mean, he pumps out a novel a year or so.
That's crazy. Also, quick thing. Thank you, Kory, for reminding me from Brats. One of the Brat Pack adjacent members was Leah Thompson.
Yeah.
Who was in Back to the Future. And John Cryer is another one who a lot of people know from the two men and a kid or whatever the show was that Charlie Sheen was in. So John Cryer, who was in Pretty in Pink, was another Brat Pack adjacent member.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But yeah, thanks for the reminder. WWE and some good old Stephen King. Kendall's got the best content.
That's it. If anybody likes novels that freak you out a little bit and disgust you because there's cannibalism involved, give Holly a shot.
Duly noted.
All right.
All right, boys. Well, I'm tapped. That's all I got. Anything else from you?
No, sir.
Feels good.
Well, I just want to thank Artius Man for their sponsorship. Artius Man is a locally made natural product, men's grooming, especially for the beard product line. It's really good stuff. I love the guy, Jeff, that runs it. And you can get a discount on their products that all smell really good, not limited to just beard care, shampoo, conditioner, body wash, and the like, but also including soy blend woodwick candles that have really unique masculine scents. Father's Day is over, but if you left the dad in your life feeling a little less than appreciated, it might be a good opportunity to go to artiusman.com, artiusman.com, and use promo code The Middle. That's all caps, all one word, The Middle at checkout, and you will get 1/4 of your order off, slashed, gonzo. And it will give us a little kickback. It'll give you that discount, and you will get some amazing products. And it supports Artius Man as well. And you can support Jeff and his family, which is really cool for you to do that. So do that. We appreciate it. Otherwise, we will see you next week on Friggity from the Middle. Bye.